Hollywood is famous for second chances, but no comeback story is as dramatic or powerful as Ingrid Bergman's. In 1950, she was publicly denounced by the United States Senate as a menace to American womanhood, her films banned, and her name dragged through the mud. Yet 20 years later, that same nation gave her a standing ovation, handed her 3 Oscars, and begged her forgiveness. How did one woman go from scandal to sainthood? It all started with a single handwritten note, nearly destroyed in a studio fire, that would ignite a scandal Hollywood still whispers about. Fans today continue demanding the FBI open her long-rumored moral threat file. But first, let's step back to Stockholm, where Ingrid's astonishing journey began. Ingrid Bergman was born on August 29, 1915, in a Sweden shaken by war and personal tragedy. When she was just 3 years old, Ingrid lost her mother. 9 years later, her beloved father, a photographer who filled her childhood with imagery and wonder, passed away, leaving her orphaned and alone. Quiet and reserved, Ingrid found comfort and purpose at the Royal Dramatic Theatre School in Stockholm, scribbling meticulous notes about breathing, posture, and emotional honesty in battered notebooks. Classmates whispered about her strange intensity. Decades later, those notebooks resurfaced in archives, revealing that the teenager was already mastering acting techniques later credited to American method actors. Her early Swedish films quickly showcased an actress with raw emotional clarity, prompting critics to call her performances unschooled honesty. Hollywood soon took notice, and Ingrid's life was forever altered. Producer David O. Selznick saw Bergman in the Swedish film Intermezzo during a New York thunderstorm and immediately knew he needed her in Hollywood. When she stepped off the boat, American reporters expecting another glamorous blonde starlet were stunned to find a fresh-faced actress with unplucked eyebrows, minimal makeup, and sensible shoes. Studio stylists begged her to change her appearance, but she firmly declined. Audiences, starved for authenticity, flocked to see her American debut. The timing was perfect. World War II had begun, and Hollywood needed a star who could project warmth and sincerity. Ingrid toured army hospitals, broadcast multilingual radio messages to boost morale, and knitted socks on live television to encourage war bond purchases. Her unforgettable role in Casablanca made her the face soldiers carried into battle, symbolizing hope, longing, and heartbreak. Bergman was Hollywood's golden girl, but that glittering reputation was about to be severely tested. Legendary director Alfred Hitchcock saw Bergman as the perfect canvas for suspense. In Spellbound, she brought intense emotional complexity to the role of a psychiatrist battling inner demons. In Notorious, her character carried dangerous secrets and shared an infamous, prolonged kiss that cleverly skirted the strict Hays Code censorship rules. However, it was the psychological thriller Gaslight that truly defined her career. Her portrayal of a woman manipulated into doubting her own sanity was so convincing that the term gaslighting entered the psychiatric lexicon. This haunting performance earned Bergman her first Academy Award. Rumors circulated that Hitchcock compiled secret reels of her expressions to privately teach aspiring actors about emotional truth. Bergman had become Hollywood's untouchable icon of purity, grace, and virtue, but saints rarely remain untouched by scandal. In 1947, Ingrid watched Roberto Rossellini's raw, realistic Rome, Open City, and impulsively wrote him a fan letter offering her acting services. Shortly after arriving at Rome's Minerva Film Studios, a fire destroyed much of the mail, but Bergman's letter miraculously survived. Rossellini, captivated, called her immediately. Their collaboration quickly evolved into a passionate affair. When the American press discovered that Ingrid, still married to respected neurosurgeon Petter Lindstrom, was pregnant with Rossellini's child, outrage exploded. Senator Edwin Johnson publicly condemned her on the Senate floor as a moral disgrace, demanding a licensing board to ban immorality from American screens. The public responded swiftly. Theaters boycotted her films, fans sent hate mail, and the FBI reportedly labeled her a moral threat. Ingrid Bergman was officially exiled from Hollywood, seemingly forever. Rossellini's next film, Stromboli, was shot on an active volcano, surrounded by an aggressive paparazzi siege and hostile locals angered by the scandal. Rossellini used guerrilla filming tactics, no script supervision, improvised dialogue, and natural lighting. American critics derided the film, but young European directors praised its authenticity. The French New Wave soon hailed Bergman's Rossellini trilogy, Stromboli, Europa 51, and Journey to Italy as groundbreaking, paving the way for deeply personal cinema. In Europe, she raised three children, learned Italian, and reinvented her acting style, becoming even more emotionally accessible. While America rejected her, European auteurs lined up for advice. Years later, a documentary titled Cinema's Second Eve would honor these difficult years as transformative for film history. By 1956, Hollywood sensed the public had forgiven Bergman. Anastasia premiered in Paris to standing ovations, and Bergman won her second Academy Award. Initially unable to accept the award in person due to lingering controversy, she returned 2 years later to thunderous applause, officially marking her redemption. Roles poured in, each more celebrated than the last, including transformative turns in The End of the Sixth Happiness and Cactus Flower. A brief but iconic cameo in Murder on the Orient Express earned her a third Oscar in 1974. Off-screen, her private life stabilized with Swedish theater impresario Lars Schmidt, offering her rare peace. Decades later, collectors paid six-figure sums for her auction letters, and streaming platforms rolled out centenary documentaries. Bergman had transcended scandal to become immortal. Despite personal upheaval, Bergman maintained remarkable grace in public. Known for her quiet dignity and refusal to stoop to tabloid sensationalism, she rarely addressed her critics directly. Instead, she let her performances speak for themselves. Directors praised her professionalism. Colleagues admired her humility and warmth. When paparazzi dug for scandalous photos, she shielded her children with fierce maternal resolve, refusing to let her private life become fodder for headlines. Ingrid's enduring elegance and emotional strength became as integral to her legacy as her cinematic achievements. Beyond her fame, Bergman quietly championed humanitarian causes. During World War II, she supported refugee relief and encouraged wartime charity drives. Later, she donated to children's hospitals and refugee programs and personally visited shelters to lift spirits. Even in her final years, weakened by illness, she continued advocating for global welfare, lending her voice to campaigns for displaced families and underprivileged children. Those close to her recalled a woman whose compassion matched her talent, dedicating her resources and time to easing suffering behind the scenes. In her memoir, Bergman devoted a moving chapter to Gregory Peck, famously beginning with "He was massive." She described not only his towering physical stature, but also his moral gravity, how he listened so intently that silence felt charged. On the set of Spellbound, she admitted she occasionally forgot her lines, not from nerves, but from being transported by his presence. Peck's humility and integrity impressed her deeply. He never sought to upstage others, yet dominated the scene by being fully present. That lesson in true presence stayed with her, shaping her performances long after their collaboration ended. On June 15, 1974, during a London run of The Constant Wife, Ingrid detected a lump beneath her left breast. She quietly scheduled surgery between matinees, returned swiftly to the stage, and concealed her recovery behind flowing costumes. Though the cancer returned during Autumn Sonata, she channeled her fear into a performance so raw that audiences sensed a real woman's anguish. Chemotherapy left her frail, yet she pressed on to portray Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir in A Woman Called Golda, earning a final Emmy. On August 29, 1982, her 67th birthday, Ingrid passed away peacefully in London. Her memorial at St. Martin-in-the-Fields overflowed with mourners. As time goes by, drifted through stained glass as flashbulbs popped. Her grandson later reflected that in her final moments, she belonged not to the world, but the world belonged to her legacy. Ingrid's personal life was as rich and complex as any role she played. Married first to neurosurgeon Petter Lindstrom in 1937, she balanced motherhood with skyrocketing fame. giving birth to daughter Pia in 1938. Their marriage faltered under the strain of her career and the Rossellini affair, ending in divorce in 1950. Her second marriage to Roberto Rossellini produced three children, Isabella, Roberto, and Isata, but was marred by cultural clashes and unrelenting public scrutiny. In 1958, she found stability with Lars Schmidt, whose support of her theatrical ambitions offered a respite from film's glare. Though all marriages ended, Ingrid emerged with unshaken independence, defining womanhood on her own terms and inspiring countless working mothers who followed. Half a century after her death, Ingrid Bergman's influence reverberates across screens big and small. Directors from Martin Scorsese to Greta Gerwig cite her emotional honesty as a template for authentic performance. Her fearless boundary breaking, choosing art over convention, life over image, prefigured modern conversations about female agency in Hollywood. Film schools dissect her work to teach nuance. Streaming retrospectives introduce her to new generations. In a 2024 poll, young cinephiles named Casablanca's tearful farewell among the top 5 most iconic movie moments. Bergman's legacy isn't just in awards or box office records. It's in the enduring power of truth, vulnerability, and grace under pressure. She remains the gold standard for cinematic reinvention. Long before social media hashtags could topple reputations overnight, Ingrid Bergman faced public condemnation, exile, and redemption on a global scale. She rewrote the narrative of scandal, proving that anger fades but art endures. So the next time you witness a storm of outrage, remember the orphan girl from Stockholm who navigated politics, prejudice, and personal trials to become an eternal icon. Ingrid Bergman's life teaches us that greatness isn't about avoiding scandal, but about meeting it with courage, honesty, and unwavering presence. Her story challenges us to ask, can any modern star match her grace under fire and triumph of the human spirit?